Husband and wife duo Peter and Gwenda Dixon lived in Oxfordshire. They had been happily married for 27 years and had 2 children together. Peter was an amateur radio operator, also known as Radio Ham.
CQ, 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 Golf Whiskey 0, Hotel Foxtrot, Quebec Mobile, Golf Whiskey.
These individuals are passionate about using radio equipment to communicate with others, explore different radio modes, and participate in various activities within the hobby. Anyway, the Dixons had booked a short camping trip for Monday the 19th of June in the Pembroke countryside. They arrived at the campsite paying their £24.50 for the pitch in the field. They discussed with the lady who ran the site about staying for 2 weeks this year, as the couple had enjoyed it so much the previous year. They had been coming to this campsite for over 16 years and had brought their 2 children along with them. The 2 children were now older and living their own lives, but Gwenda and Peter knew the area well. They knew all the best walks, where the best beaches were, and all the best places to eat. So driving across the field and pitching up their tent, Gwenda and Peter were ready to go. They were quite fit and regularly went walking, even went back home in Oxfordshire where they lived. They were always walking somewhere. Their son Tim came to visit them and stay at the campsite with them for a couple of days, but went back home. The couple were due to arrive back home and back to work. But when they did not arrive on the date that they were supposed to do, and in turn their son began to become concerned, he called the farm campsite where they were staying at to ask the lady if she'd seen them. She explained that she'd seen his mother and father pitch up their tent. She looked out of the window and could see the car and the tent were still parked in the field, although she had not seen them for a few days, she told him. The police were called by the lady at the campsite. As the police opened up the Dixons' tent, they found it empty. There were still clothes and possessions in there, but no Gwenda or Peter. Police, coast guards, park wardens and RAF searched on foot and along the coastal footpaths. For 2 days the RAF helicopter scoured the coastline, but still no Peter or Gwenda were found. They had suspected that maybe the couple had fallen from a cliff edge. Just after 3 p.m. on Wednesday the 5th of July, a police dog discovered the remains of 2 bodies, believed to be that of Peter and Gwenda. They were found near to the edge of the cliff top, hidden under a large tree branch and under undergrowth. They had been murdered using a 12-bore shot gun, both being shot at close range. So police conducted an inquiry. They wanted to speak to everyone in the area around the time, people that were camping, people that had seen the 2 Dixons. Now, the village of Marlow is about 5 miles from the campsite, and apparently on Wednesday the 28th of June, 9 a.m, 2 men were seen walking past the post office. Later that day, the same witness said that she saw these 2 men again, 2 miles from the campsite at St. Bridie's Crossroads. The Dixons had been in Marlow on that morning too. The Dixons had asked a farmer if they could drive across their land towards the Dale airfield. The farmer was interested as Peter explained that he wanted to get a good signal for his radio contacting. Dale Airfield was an abandoned old Air Force base and was popular with tourists due to the beautiful views from the cliffs. So, the man that owned the fields allowed Peter and Gwenda to drive across. The next morning, on Thursday the 29th of June, the weather had worsened. It had rained heavily during the night, and this was the day that the Dixons were about to go home. It was 8:30 a.m. About a quarter of a mile from the campsite, a resident, Susan Beddoes, was taking her daughter to school when 2 cyclists caught her attention. It seemed that they were heading across the coastal path. The bike seemed old and rattly. Now, back at the campsite, as Peter and Gwen were having breakfast, they'd had a conversation with the couple in the tent next to them. Peter and Gwenda had decided that they were going home. They put it down to the weather and the rain that they'd had all night. Peter told the couple that they planned to go for a long walk along the cliffs while the tent dried out, and then set off home. This couple were the last people known to have had a conversation with the Dixons. Other campers in the field remember seeing Peter and Gwenda as they set off for their long walk across the field at 9:30 a.m. From there were no other witnesses. No one remembered seeing the couple again, but it's thought that they took the coastal path towards Dale. At 11:55 a.m, the couple next to Peter and Gwenda drove out of the campsite. They seemed to be the only couple that knew the Dixons were planning on going home that day. At around 11 a.m. that morning, shots could be heard, although in a farming area like that, it was not completely unusual for people to wonder what it was. Later that day at 1:30 p.m, someone in Pembroke used Peter Dixon's bank card at a NatWest cash machine on Main Street. Whoever this was seemed to know Peter's PIN number. The person, unidentified, tried to withdraw £37 in cash. Possibly someone who was not used to cash machines, as they do not dispense pound coins. It was also an exact amount. What did someone need with £37? And why did they not try for a larger amount if they'd stolen his card? The person, suspected to be a man, then corrected his mistake, requesting just £10 out of the bank. Meanwhile, at 2 p.m. that afternoon, a family were walking along a coastal path close to Tenbenny Church when they saw a man who seemed to be acting strangely near a tree. It almost looked like he was hugging it and looking upwards. Back in Main Street in Pembroke, the man was back at the cash machine, this time requesting £100. A few doors down from the bank, just after this, in the John Bull's store, a man came in purchasing a pair of £40 walking boots, walking out with them on his feet, leaving his old ones behind. Was this the same man who had tried to take the £37 out, and with the boots, £37, and that was the reason why he tried £37 initially? At 3 p.m. the next day, on Friday the 30th of June, in King Street, Carnarvon, another man was seen at a cash machine, and an unknown amount was taken out, again using Peter's card. One day later, on Saturday the 1st of July at 7:15 a.m, a man was driving through Hertford West. On his way to work, he noted a man who looked like a cyclist at the cash machine. This was a drawing of what the man looked like. At this same time, Peter's bank card was used again. Police believed that the cyclist was in the area still at 11 a.m, as a witness saw him in a cafe. Now, police believe that they had quite a lot of information in this case, but they still hope that someone may come forward. They may have seen something at the time. So it was decided that the police would stage a reconstruction on the BBC show Crime Watch. It aired at 9 p.m, a prime time for viewers, as most families had their children in bed by then. Police hoped someone would call in with a snippet of info that would blow this case wide open. They circulated the drawing of the man the cyclist seen outside the bank and in the cafe, the one that they suspected was using Peter's card. Police believed that two men had walked over a sty at around 10 a.m. that day, the day that the Dixons disappeared. And, according to what police believe, these two men should have bumped into the Dixons on their way through the coastal path. One man was apparently aged in his 30s, and possibly the other was in his 50s. Was it a father and son? Now, police requested that the two men came forward, but they never did. There was apparently 36 people that police were asking to come forward. They were also trying to track down two caravans that had been parked at the site at the same time as the Dixons, and they had not found them and were asking them to come forward, reading out their picture numbers and the dates that they were there. Unfortunately, the lady who ran the site did not keep a full document with information to do with people's addresses, etc. on file. A wallet like Peter's was shown on Crime Watch. It was a brown leather wallet that had apparently contained 7 credit cards, a telephone charge card, and his driving license. This was apparently missing. Police were asking if anyone had found it as they were walking along the coastal path to come forward. But this was not the only case where a male and female had been murdered in the area, and their deaths had both been due to a GUN. They had been deaths of a brother and sister, Richard and Helen Thomas. Now, they'd been found burned in their house. Helen's body had been found on the ground floor of their house, among debris that had fallen from the bedroom above, and as a result of the fire that had been set. Richard was discovered on the landing of the first floor, and that was not all. They both had GUN shot wounds, and a mud-stained blanket near Richard's body, and a pool of the red stuff with 3 cartridge pellets in an outhouse raised the possibility that they had been shot in or near the outhouse, then wrapped in the blanket and dragged back into the main house through the dirt. So police looked into whether these 2 cases could have been by the same perpetrator. They were 4 years apart. Police needed to consider it. Police were convinced that the man named John Cooper was a prime suspect in these cases due to the fact that Peter had been tied with his hands behind his back using rope, and swabs had been taken from their bodies. Now, the initial DNA work proved inconclusive, so they widened their forensic investigation, starting specifically with textile fibres. They also looked to the crime scene to help prioritise the search. They also looked at John's record. Almost immediately, they started to find blue acrylic fibres on the branches of the trees used to hide the bodies and on Peter Dixon's belt. They knew that the offender must have handled these branches extensively. It looked as though he had been wearing gloves, which may be another reason why they had been having so much trouble finding any foreign DNA, which could have come from the perpetrator. Now, this John Cooper had been in prison previously. As part of Cooper's burglary MO, he had discarded items he didn't want after offending, throwing them in hedgerows as he walked home. Along with discarded items discovered were a large number of gloves, several of which had been knitted from blue acrylic fibres. One of the gloves was made of fibres that matched some of the fibres on the branches near Peter's belt. It was a breakthrough that they'd been waiting. Fibre evidence began mounting up, and while examining adhesive tapings used to collect fibre evidence from a pair of shorts found in John Cooper's house, they found a tiny flake of the red stuff. DNA testing matched the red stuff to Peter Dixon. Further incriminating evidence came from a sawn-off GUN linked to John Cooper, which had been found in a hedgerow during the burglary investigations. Forensic examinations revealed that the red stuff on this was a DNA match to Peter Dixon. While evidence built up, there was still a potential question mark over the origin of one of the bloodstains recovered from inside the hem of a pair of shorts found in John Cooper's house. DNA testing showed the red stain could have come from Peter Dixon's daughter, but how was her red stuff on shorts recovered from his house? Then it dawned on the team, what if the shorts had belonged to one of the Dixons? And when Cooper found them while he was searching through their rucksacks, he had maybe decided to swap them with his own as they were red stained. John Cooper was tried in 2011 and found guilty of murdering Richard and Helen Thomas in their home and Peter and Gwenda on the coastal path. He was also convicted of a serious sex assault and 5 attempted robberies. He was sentenced to life in prison. Combined with the DNA evidence revealed by meticulous searching, this contributed to John Cooper's conviction in 2011. The scientists involved all received formal commendations for their work. Between the ages of 17 and 21, John Cooper had been charged with the theft of a vehicle, assaulting a police officer, being drunk and disorderly, and ABH. In 1978, then a farm labourer, he had won £90,000, worth about $500,000 today, £4,000 car, in a newspaper Spot the Ball competition. A friend said John developed a huge drink and gambling habit after his winnings. It was a life-changing amount of money, and they saw a real change in him. He spent most of the time in pubs and bookies. People were scared of him. He got into a lot of fights, and as his money dried up, then started the robberies. In December 1985, John Cooper targeted a 3-story farmhouse, killing the brother and sister, Richard and Helen Thomas, and then burning down the house. 4 years later, in June 1989, Peter and Gwenda were on holiday in Pembrokeshire, taking their last walk along the coastal path, but failed to return. Their dead bodies were found along the path. They had been tied up. The man had demanded that they hand out their bank cards and forced them to disclose their personal identification numbers. John Cooper, carrying a sawn-off shot gun, robbed Peter Dixon of £300 in cash and shot the couple in the face at point-blank range. In 1996, he attacked 5 youngsters, threatening them with the gun, then SEX assaulting one of the girls. By 1998, John Cooper had committed 30 burglaries. Footage of an edition of the ITV game show Bullseye, recorded in 1989, showed John Cooper was a contestant on the show. This footage was later used to match the sketch made by a witness of the perpetrator. In 2011, John Cooper was jailed for life for his crimes. In 2011, he launched an appeal against his convictions, but they were rejected in 2012. But the families of the victims have had to live without their loved ones for tens of years. People like you and me, just enjoying life, walking along a coastal path, camping in a field. Where on earth in this world are we safe from predators such as John Cooper? Most of us will continue to enjoy our lives, but just occasionally some crazy, greedy man will come along from nowhere and take everything from you, including your life. What is this world coming to, I ask you?